If you would bow your heads, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for everything that you have done and everything that gets done here tonight. Lord, I want to pray your protection over every person in here in every way that it is needed. Lord, for all the business matters that are to be conducted, I pray that it will be done to a prospering state that is the benefit for all those whom it concerns. I thank you for giving wisdom and an instruction that it would be easy to make right decisions. Lord, for all those that have come for various reasons, I thank you for their accomplishments and everything that has taken place. And all the praise and the glory is given to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With that, we call the September 15, 2015 regular City Council meeting to order. Mrs. Bach, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Roll?
Here.
Mrs. Turner?
Here.
Mr. Kramer?
Here.
Mayor Winger?
Here, and Ms. Graves has a family problem, is not here tonight for that reason, and is excused. All right, preliminary matters, agenda additions, deletions, or adoption.
Staff has one item. In front of you have an add-on item for the attorney's matters. It's an insurance and identification language for the police department to temporarily use the Scripps facility.
Motion to approve agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. All right, there are no proclamations tonight, Mrs. Bach?
No, sir.
All right. Shotzi, would you come forward and make your presentation? We're all listening with wide open ears.
I don't know how to turn this on. Is it on? Shotzi LaJoy. I live at 3635 Flamingo Drive, Beach. Which one? Yeah, oh, okay. Oh, good. All right. So here we are again. We are here to give you an update, and we are here to ask for permission. As you know, Indian River Rowing Club, our mission statement is to promote and teach the sport of rowing to the community for the health, education, and involvement of a team sport that benefits individuals and families. So the last 3 years, we've been extremely busy. I don't think the grass is growing under any of those feet you see up in the air. We've moved our operations from Fellsmere to under the 17th Street Bridge that we've gotten permission to develop. Thank you very much. We have a storage capacity for about 30 boats right now where we're currently located. We started a highly active and successful high school youth rowing program. We have a full-time director. We've fundraised for and acquired about 20 boats, and we have 2 coaches' launches. Started a new middle school program this summer, which is up and running. Ran a successful youth summer camp. Plans for a large Learn to Row program for adults this fall, and we've hosted several collegiate and adult groups from up north for winter camps. So that's our 3-year activity. You can see our boats, and behind that is our storage container. And behind the storage container are more boats, just so we can't show it all in one photo. And we have our youth on the water. We have our youth running at the treatment plant, and sometimes it doesn't smell very good. The girls complain. Ruby's not here. She told me to make sure I said that. I saw her last week in Notre Dame. She goes, "Please tell the council members it still smells." Get the odor control system working.
That's it. I just. Yeah. We have a great win this past spring at the state scholastic champions. There's our middle schoolers. And here is our stats. We started off with 13 girls in 2014. In the fall of 2014, we have 24 girls and 9 boys.
and you see how it's growing fast. Right now we have 12 middle school. Our middle school program's only been about 8 weeks, and we've already got 12 committed. And middle school rowing is the fastest growing segment of rowing in Florida right now. So our summer program had over 50 youth. Very interesting, and we talked about this at length before we gave the presentation, and we did not realize that this was true. But I want you to look carefully at these statistics about scholarships. We all know that Title IX has given equality to girls' sports, and one of the sports that is funded highly across the country is rowing, even though rowing is not necessarily at every school. So look carefully at the numbers. We have 4,242 high school girls rowing nationally. We have 2,060 Division I and II rowing scholarships available. So the potential for scholarships is 48% of the pool of rowing. And I do want to qualify that rowing does recruit tall athletes. So some of the scholarships might go to basketball players because the long legs, strong. In comparison, we have 81,000, let's say at 82,000 high school girls playing lacrosse. The competition is fierce, and only 3% of those get scholarships. Football, not a girl sport, but we have to throw it in. Equality, we have 1,000,001, and only 2% of those players get scholarships. If our community had more rowing, we would probably be able to allow some of our ladies to get more scholarships. This summer we offered a youth guidance mentoring and activities program. We are fully committed and plan to offer as many outreach programs as we can. There's many different segments that rowing can be offered, and this is our first outreach. We have tourism. So far, without a boathouse, without a facility, that most colleges and groups are looking for a facility because there's a lot of infrastructure in place, so they can have a lot of equipment at their exposure. I have already been down here. Boston College, we have Ohio, Grand Valley, Three Rivers Rowing, and Notre Dame. They came also in 2013, but they were up at the canal that year. So these programs bring tourism dollars, and they stay in hotels. What we do have to report is Grand Valley brought 90 athletes down here. And I talked to John Bancheri as we were putting together this presentation, and he knew that the water was good, and he knew there was a club here, and he called us. And we told them to go to the sports village, and so they had 90 athletes staying there for 10 days. Boston College is coming from since 2010. Steve Fisk, he Google mapped Florida, didn't know there was rowing here, looked at the constellation of the Spoil Islands and picked the spot that we're going to ask for tonight to row out of, because regardless of the winds, there will always be calm water to practice. So when he brings his team down and he has only 10 days, he wants to make sure that his athletes are on the water, because all the northern athletes are in the gym on the erg. So and this was just because we're so lucky to have north of the Barber Bridge available for rowing. It really is beautiful up there. Our team is working out in local health clubs, and we also participate in local ergathons. The Southern Sprints up in Brevard County at FIT is a host, and so our team was there working out, practicing. And other communities are investing a lot into rowing because rowing does attract a lot of tourism, and Sarasota has built a state-of-the-art $20 million rowing complex and can host world-class events. The good news for us is that when these world-class events are going on, it draws a lot of other clubs, and they'll be going to satellite places around Florida. So Sarasota is good for our rowing tourism also, because we're very close. We're just across the state. Manatee County and Lake County have also invested city money into their rowing programs. So I'm going to hand this over to Chris Ryan because he's our problem solver.
It's hard for us to impart sometimes our enthusiasm for the kids that we have developed this for, but we really are proud of them and what they've done, and it's a tremendous achievement for our community. We do have some issues with our current site, and I think we showed you a video last time, and I could make you watch the same video of our kids struggling with waves at the current location, which is not only difficult to row in, but also sometimes dangerous. So we actually have stats from the spring, which is our #1 competitive season, where our kids only got on the water 50% of the time. The rest of the time they're running through the treatment plant. We have possibility of damage of our boats on the water, plus under the bridge is not actually, while it's protected from above, it's not protected from wind, so it's not the ideal location for us. And we really doesn't provide sufficient room for growth. A proper boathouse would have stacks of boats that go right up to a ceiling, and this, we're limited to the highest people can reach because we don't have concrete floors to put the elevators on. And it doesn't really provide a destination that we can advertise in national rowing magazines. It's,
sewer plant. I
don't know what you can say, but I mean, so far it's been word of mouth, and we've actually been pretty successful, and it's part of our revenue stream now for these people to come down and to use our facility. However, we'd like to have an ad in the National Rowing Magazine, or advertising Vero Beach as a location. And interestingly enough, in the National Rowing Magazine, real estate agents are starting to advertise their services for people to come down and buy houses so they can row year round. So it's a real activity. It's hundreds of thousands of rowers, and a lot of them are old people like me that still want to continue on. So I mean, it's definitely something that we can use as for tourism. So here's our solution. This is a picture from the air. At the lower part of the picture is the Atlantic Ocean, and we're looking into the lagoon. On the very left is the Barber Bridge, and you've heard discussion of the area that we'd like to have to row in, which is that whole picture you see there, and you can see that there's channels that probably most of you have never even seen that go at various angles behind these spoil islands, and they're just beautiful to row in. I mean, everything's wildlife. There's no houses. But they're very protected, and depending on the direction of the wind, you can pick any one of those channels to row in and not risk catastrophe with the rowing. So the boathouse location, we're going to have a better shot of it here, is in McWilliam Park, which is highlighted by the big yellow arrow there, right at the foot of the Barber Bridge and behind the existing ambulance center. So here is a close-up of that site with a little lagoon. If you've been in there, you know that there's a boat launch kind of in the upper right tongue section of that little lagoon. On the opposite side is more boat launches. The dog park would be to the upper part of this picture, and you can see the bridge in the lower part of the picture. And just out of the picture to the right is the ambulance section. So this area here, we've outlined, a probable outline for a boathouse in the trees there. Is currently pretty swampy and not really used for much. There's some cars that park along the edges, but we see this site, it has a small deficit of having to cross the road, but we think with traffic control we'll be able to cross the road with the boats and the kids and so on. And we put a dock, 8-foot wide dock in the lagoon. There's plenty of room to do that as well. And the bright colored trees there are oak trees, and the darker ones are palms. And the oak trees being more or less sacred, you can see that we could lay out a a large enough boathouse, the size we need, without actually impacting on any of the oak trees. So I think it's important to us as an environmentally friendly sport, and I think to the residents as well, so we don't disturb the oaks. And so our idea is to have an attractive structure. We don't have a design for it yet, but I mean, it's not going to be a tin shed. You know, so we can't raise money for a tin shed. We have to have an attractive structure. And so we're going to design one, you know, do it properly. And it's going to fit into our community. It's going to be a showcase for environmental energy efficient design. And it's going to comply with all the applicable zoning and planning standards. So what have we been up to? You know, as we've gone through, I guess last year we met with you guys and kind of directed us to work with the local commissions and so on. We have secured unanimous approval by the Parks and Rec Commission on August 11th. We secured unanimous approval by the Marine Commission on August 18th. I know they've forwarded those recommendations to you. And we've also kept the Planning and Zoning Department apprised of our plans so that we're not embarking on something that would not work. We've also met with some of the other stakeholders in that area. The dog park people obviously have an interest, and they're happy to have us where we are. We don't impinge on their activities, and in fact, we may actually have a benefit to them in that we're going to be developing parking. And since we're on kind of opposite time schedules, we think that logically, you know, shared parking plans would make a lot of sense and would help them with their little issue with parking. We've also met with Youth Sailing, and we have their support because they like to have more of the treatment plant, and they like the winds, so that's good for them. On the advice of some of the city people, we've met with some of the regulatory agencies, the St. John's Water Management District, and they actually came to our site and they looked at the some little wet spots or whatever, whether they're wetlands or not is an issue. But they don't see any major impediments to our plan. And, you know, they're going to have certain requirements for elevation and so on, which we can relatively easily meet. So we don't see that being a big deal. We've also talked to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers about the proposed dock. And if we keep that as less than 1,000 feet, it doesn't really represent any significant issue. And so we're talking about an 8-foot wide dock and be 100 feet long, less than 1,000 feet, even if you throw in a little extra for ramps and so on. So we think that these are all things that we were kind of asked to do in preparation for this meeting tonight, and we've done all that. And we don't see that as anything has come up to date that would be an impediment to this project. So what do we need to do as going forward here is that we need to have a lease agreement with the city for that piece of ground that we'd like to have. And we would then be obviously doing the development work of coming up with a design, you know, architectural concept work. We want to prepare fundraising packages. We have to go out to the community and raise the funds. We want to pursue whatever approvals are required, you know, formally, and we'll do the fundraising simultaneously with that, and do the final architectural engineering work that will be required for a structure of this kind. And we see, you know, I think optimistically, maybe 2 to 3 years to have an actual building there, but we can do some things in steps too. So we think that we'll be getting used to the site pretty quickly. So, you know, what about fundraising and how are we fixed for money and what's our progress? I think when we were here 3 years ago, we were telling you we could do stuff, and I think that we come tonight saying we've demonstrated that we could do stuff. I mean, we told you the kids would come, and they have come. We told you we could raise money and fund ourselves, and the proof is in the pudding, is that we've operated for those 3 years, and actually before that, without a loss. Our budget this year is about $70,000 for operating, and we operate with user funds, user fees. Capital needs for boat purchases have been completely funded by donations from interested parties and some of the members. And this past year, for example, $65,000 to purchase new boats and so on. So all that's gone on quite well. And as a result of that, we've been developing a list of what you might call friends of rowing that have been very generous in helping us. There's a lot of old rowers in this community, and obviously there's a lot of interest in this project. And we have no doubt that we're going to raise the money needed for a community signature structure in that location. So we plan to, you know, certainly be able to raise the money. So just in summary, you know, here's our proposal for you. It's a signature structure for the community in McWilliam Park. It's going to complement existing activities, the dog exercise area in the ballpark. The new parking will help everybody. We're going to be promoting environmentally friendly water sports of all kinds. We're going to have programs for the youth of Indian River County, not only our high school, but some of the disadvantaged segments of the county. And we're going to have programs for the physically and economically disadvantaged, programs for residents and for businesses. You can imagine corporate rowing and all these different things that can go on with rowing. We're going to be promoting tourism that's going to benefit local businesses and restaurants and hotels. And we're going to have a capital budget program. We're not going to be coming back and asking for money. I don't think there is any, but we wouldn't ask for it anyway. So we're just telling you that our plan is to do this on our own. And so we have a sustainable operating plan that is based on proven models from other clubs and other communities, and we've demonstrated that we can operate according to that plan. So here's what we ask you to do tonight, if you can. We'd like you to have a motion that would move that the city approves the use of a portion of McWilliam Park to build a boathouse on the designated property and direct the city attorney to negotiate a lease with the Indian River Rowing Club, a 501c3 corporation, for the property. And the bottom photo is just our girls with their medals. I mean, it really is heartwarming.
Chris, I think you've proved the value of rowing. You've been passing my house, and unfortunately, you won't pass it anymore with this. Also, just a tangent, the other day I was down, I participated in the sailing club, and all of our sailboats, our 420s, the 20 of them blew, not all of them, but a great many of them blew off the dollies, but they're strong. They're made for that kind of abuse. But it is true that there are wind conditions there. I guess my question of you is, you're familiar with the dog park lease, probably. And if not, it might be something that gives us kind of a format for it, where we need to go. And I suggest that to the city attorney. I don't know what you think, Jim.
I think that'll be the model that we will follow. And in the conversations I've had with the rowing club, one of the things that I wanted to protect against was that this is an ongoing forever and ever type of thing, that we would have a time set, either 2 or 3 years, where permits would have been issued for the construction to start so it doesn't close up the property. But from the administration, this is an ideal site. We wholeheartedly support it. We think it builds right into that area. And from the city's perspective, we had no use for that property and don't project anything in the near future.
Yeah, it floods for what it's worth. You're going to have to.
Yeah, we're aware of that. Yeah, and
it's going to have to build higher. I think the thing is, and I wholeheartedly support this. I've said that at the last city council. I think one thing, as the lease is negotiated, one of the concerns is, like, you'll have a dock there as an example. When you're not using it, our general thing that with the dog park and any other group that we've more recently done is we don't want to restrict public access to anything more than we can. Obviously, the boats need to be protected and locked up, sort of thing. But that would be as the lease would be negotiated. That would be of a concern that that public land isn't restricted from the public unnecessarily. So for what it's worth,
I don't see any reason that would be any kind of an issue.
No, I don't think it would either.
Yeah, there's bunches of docks there already, and I'm very familiar with that area. And there's never a time when they're jammed up. And certainly, if somebody wanted to launch a kayak off that dock or something like that, that's an ideal place to do it. I think we'd have to work out if there's 3/8 lined up to come in and land. Somebody's going to have priority, but we have to work that out. But I don't see that big a big issue at all, because generally our hours of rowing are not going to be conflicting with the times.
Well, the same thing is true of parking, and to a limited degree, any structure. The same thing is true. I mean, we went over this with the dog park people, that they have fences and so on, but people can come in there and all that sort of thing. I don't think we should get into the details tonight, but one of the things that is important is that that a special use facility, whether it's for sailing or the dog park or anything else, I think is highly desirable, except that the rest of the public needs to be considered, and that's one of the things that we had comment. Also, I would tell you that as this process, if the process rolls forward, and it seems like it will, that we need time for transparency, so for other members of the community to, other stakeholders. I know there was some change in the dog park to facilitate some of the comments about other people, the baseball park and all that. So, I think it's one of those things that it takes a little bit of time. I mean, I don't think we crossed completely over that bridge tonight, but I would have no problem in the city manager and the city attorney, going the direction you would like us to go.
That's great. We appreciate that.
And Mrs. Turner?
I would just like to congratulate y'all on building this incredible enthusiasm for rowing in our community. Seeing the success that we've had of our very young students, I was going to say in just a few years, the success that they've had in competition, dedication, I think it's just been remarkable. I would certainly think this would be a great asset for the city of Vero Beach, and I would endorse the request for the city attorney to prepare a lease for review with the rowing club.
You really ought to congratulate yourself on this. This is the way it should be done. You really have done a great job. There's no question, and this is obviously a testimony to the ability of you to put together something that was successful. It's great.
There's some other people. I mean, I'll just recall the one little girl that came to us that said, "We want to row." This Iris Hollinger and Ruby Hollinger.
Ruby. We know Ruby.
And that really kind of changed the face of everything here. It's little things like that happen fortuitously with rowing that really make it work.
Mr. Kramer, do you have any?
No, we're extremely excited to see this thing roll out, and glad we got decided on where we're going to put everything, and it'll be fun to watch this happen. So,
I think Chris, the communities, whether it's parades or sailing or rowing or dogs or museums or street festivals, art festivals, art villages. All of those things attribute to what Vero Beach is about, and this will certainly be a grand addition. So,
thank you.
It's great. It's really great.
So, yeah. Is there anyone that would like to comment about that? I mean,
I think Shotzi's asking a question.
You're getting a lease, Shots. You can breathe now. We're moving forward with the lease.
You guys aren't motioning yet, are you?
No, we said it was consensus
Oh, okay.
to move forward with the lease.
I just didn't hear motion. Okay.
No motion. It was just a consensus. And
Shotzi, the devil is in the detail, but at least we're going the right direction.
All right.
If anyone would like to comment about it, because, this is like the prior meeting that we had tonight. I mean, the community has a stake in it. I think we've probably heard adequately, but if anyone has a contra view, or if anything I said or anyone else said, we're here to hear it. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is Colonel Tony Young will come forward. Tony, are you here?
Yes.
I'm always impressed by colonels because I made the great grade of specialist 4th class in the U.S. Army, and colonels impress me.
Good evening. I just want to take a couple minutes real quickly to let the community know on Friday is the recognition of POW MIA Day. And, we're going from youth and energy to a solemn occasion. But you may ask, why do we want to take this occasion? Because we've got Veterans Day, we've also got Memorial Day. Why does the federal government take time to recognize the POWs and MIAs? Last week we recognized 9/11. And on 9/11, many people disappeared in a flash. There are thousands of families that still have a story that's not closed. And what I mean by that is they've got uncles, they've got grandfathers that were lost in Vietnam, were lost in other conflicts, and remain unaccounted for. And we're really, really fortunate to have a world-class location in Indian River County. That's called Memorial Island. And I was in church, and I said, you know what? We can let this pass because the Veterans Council has a ton of things that we do. Every week, every month, we're engaged with raising money for the homeless. We're engaged with raising money for those that are in economic straits. But it would be grossly negligent on our part if we didn't take advantage of the memorial that we have there. And in fact, not only do we have an island that's set aside for it, but in 2007, there was dedicated a POW MIA memorial itself. So in short order, I turned and I said, you know what, I'll take lead if people will help. And in this community, we have people that will gladly step forward. So we have a bugler, we have a bagpiper, we have a vocalist, we have 2 honor guards, we have a Navy bell that will be sounding, and we have a wreath that has been donated. So God willing, and the creek don't rise, and we get flooded out on Friday evening, we will have about a 45-minute ceremony at 6:30 in the evening that will take an opportunity for folks to come together over on the island and lesson learned from the Korean memorial. There will be a golf cart, so if anybody has an elderly member of the family and has difficulty getting from the parking area onto the island, that will be there. And as usual, the city supports with phenomenal audio capability, so I'm sure we'll be heard. This will be a candlelight vision. The last one was a couple years ago. It won't be quite dark, but still we'll have the battery-operated candles that will illuminate. And in addition, this year, we're fortunate that we'll have the Gifford American Legion participating with us. So those are all very good things. And very quickly, you might say, well, little old Vero Beach in Indian River County and Treasure Coast, we probably don't have anybody that meets that criteria of POWs and MIAs. And I will assure you that if you go on the island and you look at the 78 markers that are there, 5 of them are for individuals that died serving their country as POWs. And you say, what do you mean by that? Well, you have a couple that died in German POW camps and stalags. So if you look at a Band of Brothers, you can recognize that. And then if you think of the Pacific and the Japanese, there's a P-40 fighter pilot by the name of Joe Hill that died in the Rabaul Japanese POW camp, which was horrendous. And then you had a young man from Wabasso, he's 19 years old. Initially, he was not accepted because his feet were too big, but then he was accepted and ended up serving in the Philippines. And at the outbreak of the war, that young man was a part of 50,000 men that were marched on the Bataan Death March to a POW camp, and he succumbed there. So I would say in the wars, it's never a good thing to have to fight for your liberties, but it's one thing that is an education for our youth. We will have the Boy Scouts there providing water. We've invited the Civil Air Patrol as well. So for those of you who have an opportunity Friday evening, you're more than welcome. I have brochures that I can provide to the council as well. So any questions?
Colonel, you pointed to me, my father's brother, who I was quite fond of, went missing in action January 26, 1944. And, it's something you really need to get over with. I mean, he's gone. So it's...
Without a doubt. There was a lady that lived next to me in Williamsburg, Virginia. Her husband was a fixed-wing Air Force scout pilot that went down. And you just wonder in your minds when their birthdays come out, where are they? One of the farming families here in Indian River County, the Egan family, their son was a Notre Dame graduate. He was going on to law school. His family had served in the military. He said, you know what, it's my responsibility to fight for the liberties that are here. He was commissioned, young man, went to Vietnam. His initial assignment was in Hawaii. They activated him. They went out on a patrol. They were hit by the enemy. You go to an assembly point. He never showed up. They asked POWs that had served, have you seen him? They sent out reconnaissance parties to look for him. And in the entire 12 years that they searched and sent out requests, there was no resolution to that. So you can have infantrymen that disappear. There is a Coast Guard veteran that was aboard the Reuben Jane that was hit by a German submarine. Nothing for the family to return to. There was a young sailor that's about 20 years of age on the initial commissioning launch of his submarine going to the Pacific. The entire submarine disappeared. Okay. So there are many. The Defense Department is a dangerous business, and we all understand it when we take that oath or when we enlist. And I just want to recognize and not allow the opportunity to pass without making it an invitation to the public to please come out on Memorial Island, enjoy the opportunity to share what's important to you. So.
And it's Friday night at 6:30.
It's Friday night at 6:30. We will have a box of the little battery-operated candles so nobody will catch fire. We won't have to bring fire extinguishers. And you'll hear Michael Hyde on bagpipes and the vocalist, and taps will be played, and the wreath will be moved from the flag. And I just want to say thanks to Buildings and Grounds, because if you go across the Barber Bridge this entire week and you look off to the south, you'll see the POW MIA flag right beneath the American flag. So, thanks.
Tony, before you leave, and something a little on a lighter note, I see that Marty Zickert is back because he's already made a request from us for the Family and Veterans Day at the Gifford Park, which we will be helping participate in that. And I'm sure that he found the phone number and the email address very quickly upon his return. But we look forward to working with that. Rob is going, and some of his boys.
I appreciate it. We are doing our utmost to bridge every community, to engage every person possible, and I would just extend one other invitation if you have the opportunity sometime, and this is hard, but it's something that I think you would be impressed with. You heard of the GO line. Well, the Veterans Council has a bus that goes to the VA hospital every morning. It departs the Veterans Center at 4 o'clock in the morning, goes to Sebastian, picks up veterans, goes throughout Vero Beach as well, and then goes up to the hospital and then returns after lunch. And we believe we're a prosperous community, but there are many folks that are dependent upon that for their access to care, and that's critical. So thank you for entertaining Marty. I'm sure he'll be back as our roving ambassador.
He does not take no very easy, so it's much easier.
Well, thank you.
Well, we have a celebrity with us tonight. We're honored to have Mayor Gilmore, Richard Gilmore from Sebastian. Would you like to come forward, sir?
Thank you, Mayor Winger. I wanted to just come here and give you some good news. We have finally reached a point where they have said we're going to have a seat at the table. And so the Indian River Lagoon Council will be represented by the Indian River Lagoon Collaborative, however you want to say it. And so I wanted to come and give you the good news. This was facilitated by each and every entity voting for us to be on that Lagoon Council. The last one to vote was the St. John's Water Management District. That was a week ago today. And so by today, I would hope that most all of the new interlocals are filed with the individual counties. The attorney had to get all those interlocals back. She had to file them and get them all filed in each individual county. So she assures me that by October 9th, which is the next meeting, we will have a seat on that table. So just wanted to come and give you the news. I knew it would be a long and difficult path to get there, but I'm looking forward to having representation on that board. And we should probably have a meeting sometime before then, because they'll be looking for money. And each city that is represented on there is going to have an equal share, I guess, to...
You should, your city clerk in Fellsmere should probably contact Mrs. Bach and talk about a date.
Okay.
Before that. And I think for the public, who is going to be representing us, who's our vice, and all that sort of thing, so they know who's doing what.
Sure. I think I'm the representative, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Susan Adams is the co-chair, and then if she can't go, then you're it. So, we're looking forward to having some good discussions. Oh, they did hire an executive director. A Dr. Dwayne DeFries from Indian Harbor Beach is going to be the new executive director. I spoke with him yesterday, and he's coming to meet us on Friday in Sebastian. And he's going around, and he's not officially on board until October 1st. But after speaking with Dr. DeFries, he says that he's anticipating a very skeleton crew. So he thinks that probably 4 people will be all it takes to run the Lagoon Council, which is interesting. We'll see how that works. But the fewer the better, I think, because more money goes to the lagoon projects. And what we'll be discussing probably at the meeting will be how we bring about the projects that each city wants to champion to the Lagoon Council, and looking forward to getting $2.2 million in the kitty to be distributed instead of $50,000 or $500,000. It's exciting. So there you go. Just wanted to bring you the news.
And Mayor Gilmore has been the person, the champion of this particular cause, and we appreciate your work.
Well, thanks for joining with us, because we couldn't have done it by ourselves. One of the things that I was talking with Vice Mayor Kramer, Sebastian jumped up and said, look, if Indian River County doesn't want to do it, we'll do it, But one of the things that all the other council members were concerned with was an individual city going in there. And some of the counties south of us are concerned because they don't have too many cities, and they could have their vote diluted by a bunch of cities from other counties, especially Brevard, jumping in. So it really would not have worked without the collaboration that you guys here in Vero Beach are throwing along with Fellsmere. And we hope to get Indian River Shores involved down the road. So we've left it open on the paperwork. So we'll see how that goes. But
thank you for the report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll open it for general public comment. Who would like to come forward? Come forward, sir.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Gafanti, and I live at 441 Holly Road in the city of Vero Beach. I know it's not on the agenda tonight. It was at one time it was supposed to be, and that's the OUC contract. I haven't read the in its entirety, but on page 3, I guess it's Article 2. Pardon me for not being prepared, but nobody's paying me $175,000 to represent the public, so I do the best I can. Article 2 refers to Vero Beach's interest, right, and entitlement to gas transmission capacity, which the Vero Beach has an entitlement under the gas transportation contracts or whatever. And it's proposed in this article that we turn this over to OUC. Any reasonable, and anybody in this room can stop me by raising their hand if I say something that they believe is not true or know it's not true. Any reasonable person would conclude that since OUC wants this, it's an asset. Reading further in this, my understanding of this contract is going to be retroactive to sometime in the year 2008. So since this contract is retroactive to 2008, I would assume, and I don't see anything to the contrary, that this tendering of the gas entitlement is going to also go back to the year 2008. There is nothing that I haven't read it in its entirety, but I don't see any reference where this particular article and an item is suspended and extracted from the contract as far as dating back. I see or know of no place in this contract where it says that the city of Vero Beach will not be liable for the value that Vero Beach received, the profit or whatever you want to call the money or whatever that Vero Beach received. It says nothing about not turning that over to OUC. Now, I don't know if you understood what I said so let me try to say it in other words. You have an asset that goes back 8 years. Does that asset going back 8 years, whatever we benefited from that, do we have to turn it over to OUC? According to my thinking, you would have to do that. So I'd like to know, not really, I think you should know, what this asset is worth and what we're exposed to. And I'm sure, I'm guessing that that's not covered by you people. You have no idea that this could take place. But yet, some black robe rat, a.k.a. a judge over in Orlando, is going to say, well, Vero Beach, you owe them X amount of money for this value that you've received over since 2008. You have to turn that value, whatever it is, over to OUC. That's all I have to say about it, except for the contract in general. There's another paragraph I read in there which is complete gibberish, okay? And it reminded me of back in the 50s when somebody said, I think it was in the 50s, if you had an infinite number of, maybe some of you have heard this, monkeys sitting down in an infinite number of typewriters, and given an infinite amount of time, they would produce all the stuff that was ever written, including Shakespeare's plays. Okay? Well, I read this thing, and these monkeys that wrote this paragraph in here, which I can't find, I mean, I could, I don't have the time to look for it. The monkeys that wrote that got a long way to go. Got a long way to go. Now, I would sincerely suggest that I don't know if I'm going to be able to come to the meetings where you're going to discuss this, because by that time I'll have time to go over this. And I'm not a contract attorney, but I can read and understand the English language. This is nothing but gibberish in here. And if you people, I know you're going to go for it. I'm sorry for laughing at the mayor.
I was looking at the contract, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Trying to find
Have
the
at
place
it.
you're talking about.
Have at it. Yeah, it's, this is, well, let me just end by saying, most people, you know the common phrase that when you find yourself in a hole, and you got yourself in a hole. I mean, you found yourself in a hole when you took office. It was already there, thanks to, I don't have to mention Nason and Gabbard and Vatunik, but we all know where the hole came from. They always say, well, you stop digging. But no, you don't stop digging. You people have asked for, and I exclude Turner, you people have asked for a bigger shovel, and you got it right here. And you're shoveling the dirt right in the public's face. You're not fooling me. You can fool everybody else in the city of Vero Beach. This is nothing but raw garbage, raw sewage. And the public is going to suffer long after you're gone. And to quote Shakespeare, the evil that men do lives after them. Good evening.
Thanks for your comments. Further public comment? Come forward, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Bonnie Dickinson, 507 6th Street here in Vero Beach. And I come as a representative of a lot of the businesses that are now US 1. We have had in the past 3 weeks a huge influx of people on our streets that are panhandling. It's been a severe problem. We are taunted daily by them. We are trying to protect our properties from beer cans, everything. I could go into details of what we find in our properties, but I won't. I have been in touch with our police captain, our police chief, undercover agents. I have worked with all areas of the police department, and they have done a wonderful, absolutely wonderful job with us. They're patrolling our area, but their hands are tied on certain things. What I'm asking you to do is please make panhandling in Vero Beach from 12th Street North to Miracle Mile, from 10th Avenue down to wherever is in your jurisdiction. I'm not sure. But please, we need to get panhandlers off the street. This includes street twirlers, sign twirlers, anything that takes the eye off of traffic. We now have people on bicycles that should not be on bicycles. If you've seen someone who can't walk, put them on a bicycle. I've seen them crash 5 feet in front of cars that are coming down US 1. I've been on 911 calls when I just knew someone was dead. Until we slow the traffic down, until we get the people off the street, believe me, in their backpacks, they do not have a toothbrush and a clean change of clothes. They have been beggar acted because of what they have in their backpacks. We're talking weapons. You know, we're always told if you see a backpack laying somewhere to call someone. They're constantly laying in our property. We have children just started to school. I have a Section 8 close to me where I work. Children 2, 3, 4, 5 years old that are being subjected in areas where there's drugs, prostitution. The Section 8s are not doing what they're meant to do. They're meant to help people. Let's help people. Let's protect our children, but not bring in the drugs, the prostitutes. That's not Vero. A lot of the counties around us, a lot of cities, and I know, I lived in Pinellas County for years, we stopped panhandling. No newspapers, nothing. It was unbelievable how quick that word spreads. Counties around us, West Palm, have no panhandling. It's pushing people our way. If you look at our drug arrest, Indian River County, the violence is going up. Our crime rate is going up. So what do? Like everybody else, let's start at the bottom, Miami. Let's push it out. This is a home. This is a place where we're supposed to feel safe. When children start back to school, they should walk our streets safe. What I find on my street, you don't want children to find. And I find it. The police chief, they've been there right when things have happened. It happens in a split second. And I do ask you, we don't want anything. The only news we want from Vero is that it's a happy place to live. When it gets dark, we want our children to be safe on the streets. So I'm asking you, if you haven't been out and you haven't seen what I've seen, you can come with me to work any day, any hour, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Because it's 8 o'clock in the morning, they're already drunk. At 6:30 in the morning, if I go to my property, they're destroying my property, my private property. But unless someone sees them doing what they're doing, it's my problem. So I'm asking for help because it has escalated to the point that I have locked my door. It's escalating. So we need to help our police force. They can only do so much, and they're doing a fantastic job. They're working on limited funds. Since 2008, all the jobs, everything has gone down. But guess what? We've had 7 years to learn how to deal with it. And that's watching each other's back. That's noticing things that are happening. Take care of it. When it happens, nip it in the bud. In the past 3 weeks, it has escalated. It's a whole different group of people on our streets. The homeless, I know where to send them. I know where they can go get food. It's not the homeless I'm worried. It's the drug traffic. And if anybody's seen what Flacco looks like, I saw it and I was terrorized. It's horrible. And the way some of them are on our streets, we don't know what they have. So I just need to bring it to your attention. Please help us in the area that you can. Make panhandling, please, illegal for us. Let's get them off the street. Let's send them to where they need to be to get help. We have the resources. And if they don't want to go, then they can move to somewhere else where they'll be happy.
Why the influx over the last few weeks?
Because a lot of things in Fort Pierce have happened that's pushed them our way. Fort Pierce has told, so it gets, and once the word hits the street, it spreads. Let me tell you, they have signs. They know when police are coming into our area. They tag each other down. Every time a police is in our area, they have their cell phones out, which they all have. They're not out before the police get there, but they are after the police get there. But they're pushing this way. Cities are seeing what's going on. The drugs nowadays, I could put up with somebody drinking, but the hard drugs, the needles, the stuff that we find, no. That's not Vero. That's not me. That's not where I call home and where I work. And I'm not the only business person on US 1, but I am the one that has the big mouth. And
What is your address?
And I don't back down.
What is your address on you? I missed it. You said it at the start.
My place of business?
Yes, please.
I would rather not say my place of
Okay,
business.
that's fine.
But I think
Mr. City
Mr.
Manager,
Connor, I
any
think
comment
he's in
about
touch with
this?
our police chief.
Yes, the police chief has been working. He's brought it to my attention as well. And I think that in your business, there's some outdoor furniture as well up and down in that area. And what we're finding is people are going in there. Also at the 17 and US 1 is where we seem to find the influx of panhandlers, as she says. One of the problems, though, loitering is not a violation of the law. You could, as long as they keep moving on the sidewalk and don't get out into the street. And a lot of the folks are standing there. And there is a guy that has a sign, Radio Shack or something there, that flips the sign around.
But the sign holders are getting aggressive. They're getting aggressive. They're coming up to cars. They're getting more. It's one thing to stand on the street and just wait if someone's going to give you a $20, in which the average income is $250 a day of what they make. But to get aggressive, no. You don't get aggressive. You don't walk into traffic. You don't step out in front of cars. You don't go up to people's windows. You don't get aggressive. That's when the panhandling gets out of hand. It's when people give because they're afraid not to give.
Mr. Mayor, what we'll do, let us go and look at the ordinances. I'll get with Chief Curry and see if there's something we can do to adopt that would strengthen our codes.
That's fine. We had a program to get waivers from all the property owners, too.
We did get that, and we do have the right to enter the no trespassing, even on vacant land. Chief Curry's gotten virtually everybody to sign that up and down Route 1. So that came after the incident at McDonald's that time.
Yeah.
And I'll be glad to help in any way I can.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Chief knows how to get in touch with me.
I know he does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Further public comment? Mr. Digg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, Ken Digg, 1846 21st Avenue. If there is anything that you can do concerning what the last speaker spoke about with the panhandling and do a citywide where you would have it prohibited like other cities are doing, that would be most helpful. I have witnessed also folks coming up in the grocery parking lots, to especially our seniors, asking and actually demanding money. We have actually a number of people that run the post office area over by Miracle Mile area, and I'm throughout town a lot, and you begin to recognize these faces as one individual that's extremely aggressive. And they do want money. And if you don't reach into your pocket and give money, they start badgering you back and forth. Now, I can take care of myself and do what I need to do, but when I see older people, they don't know what to do, so they reach into their purse. And if you do have someone, and a lot of these individuals that are on the street, we faced this a number of years ago with our Pocahontas Park. A lot of them have serious mental issues. And the backpacks, yes, they have either razor blades in their knives, and a lot of these people are not very nice. We happen to be a very affluent community. We have also a lot of areas that open their doors, that open their kitchens to feed a lot of these folks. And the word goes out on the homeless wire network, the wireless network, hey, come to Vero, they'll feed you. So actually to go forward, a step in the right directions, if it is allowable, put something on the books where you cannot do panhandling, if you can, and that gives your police another tool in the toolbox. Sign waivers. Some of them do get aggressive, and they do walk out in traffic. I've witnessed that also. Also, I'm out in the morning running very early. Some of these folks they start moving actually around 5:30 to 8:30. Some of them fall off their bicycles. And they do have, not necessarily they're drunk, they're under the influence of other things. And that is a problem. It is something that we're being faced with, and a lot of it happens here on the mainland. And so we do have those serious issues that you guys need to take a look at. Anyway, so anything that you can do to help would be appreciated. On the dog, on the rowing club, you heard from some really, really nice people. The room was very crowded. I was out in the hallway. What was pleasing to hear is I heard that it would be open to all. They're going to look into that. That would be great. And I like it where the mayor talked about using the dog park lease as a model. I think those people really stepped up to the plate. They really worked with the city. One great thing about the dog park, if you go over there and talk to some of those folks, hey, it's working. They met the requirements of what the city wanted. They have a pretty good insurance policy. There are no dues. You don't have to pay to belong to a special club. If people go there, if they choose to donate, they do that. Also, the way the city has the lease structured, it's not a very long lease, but the city put the protections in there to protect the city and its people. And I'll leave you with this. Last Saturday, or the previous Saturday, we had a design charrette workshop on the village arts concept. We had over 125 people attend. It was fantastic. I'd like to thank all the elected officials that came out to say hello. People were very thankful that you guys stopped by. And that was the Mayor Winger, Vice Mayor Kramer, and Pilar Turner, council member, and Randy Old, council member. Thank you very much for stopping by. People appreciate it. One of the things, too, that ran through the tables when they did their little presentations, which I found pretty cool, more parks, more green space. So that's what people are looking for. And also, and you all know this, but I'll put it on the record, our waterfront is very limited. We don't have that much area out there where your general public can actually go. We all pay taxes, and we pay to keep up our waterfront. You all know that. So please, whatever you do going forward, when you look at these leases for your nonprofits, remember, leave it open for the public use. We don't have that much out there. So, but anyway, I was very encouraged with the rowing club that they are mindful. They do want to keep it open for the public to go there, where they don't have to pay dues or special dollars. Of course, if they want to donate, same thing as the dog park. So thanks for your consideration.
All right, further public comment. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. That would bring us on to the consent agenda, I believe. Is there anybody, yes, it would. Is there anybody who'd like to pull item? And
Yes,
discuss
Mr.
it?
Mayor, I'd like to pull item number 4 for discussion. That's Vero Beach Health Insurance Plan.
All right, item number 4 is pulled. Any others that we would like to pull?
Just as a question, was this insurance? Oh, the insurance item, Wayne, that's coming under yours, right? For the police.
Yes,
That's
that's
okay.
on the Scripps
That's
building.
fine. I didn't know where it was going to get put.
All right, do I have a motion to accept?
Well, and public comment on the consent agenda.
Okay, I'm sorry, public comment on any of the items on the consent agenda. I see none, so I'll close it. Now, I'll ask for
Motion to approve is amended.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It passes 4-0. All right, Mrs. Turner, you brought up number 4.
Yes, this is a renewal of the City of Vero Health Insurance Plan, and the recommendation was to go with Aetna. The recommendation is to continue with United, which is a 4.3% increase. And I guess my question is, why didn't we consider the Aetna, which is a 1.8% decrease
Because they were going to be 14.7% increase the
in
second
the following year?
Yes.
Then even Cigna was 11%.
Cigna by, if you trace how people were buying the insurance plans, buying the groups, we anticipated that there would be a substantial increase there. United provided us with 3 years of history with us and able to meet and understand where we were going as our claims forecast. And we think that would stabilize the rates there as opposed to going to the others. If you start changing health insurance carriers every year, you're going to find yourself in a very high cost class. So you're trying to stabilize where you can. We thought the 4.3 was a very reasonable increase that we would get. Willis did most of the background for us, who is our consultant, and they did recommend that we stay with United Health.
Okay. Thank you for that information. With that being said, I'd move for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes 4-0. That would move us on to 4A, public hearings. This is the final hearing for this one, I believe. Is that
Yes, sir.
So it's an ordinance of the City of Vero Beach, Florida, amending the land development regulations, Part 2 of the Code of the City of Vero Beach, relating to medical marijuana dispensaries, providing for conflict and severability, providing for an effective date, requested by the Planning and Development Director. Staff comment, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the record, I'm Tim McGarry, the Director of Planning and Development. I'm not going to go back. We already had a full hearing on this in the first reading. Unless you have some specific questions of me, I would suggest we open it to the public.
A public comment on this one. Mr. Daig or Mrs. Daig, whichever of you, or both of you, if you'd like. Of course. By all means.
Ken Daig, Deborah Daig, we both live at the same address, 1846 21st Avenue. The screen was supposed to be black. We have a presentation that we would like to show you, but we have to wait for it to be blackened out.
That's fine, Mrs. Bach will take care of it.
And we promise we won't break anything. And you'll click it once. There, and it's the right click. Thank you. Oh, they turned it off. Okay. If you want to talk, you can talk first.
Thank you. We're here to speak about the medical marijuana facility and the proposed locations. And what we've been watching, especially with the more interest in neighborhoods, even though some neighborhoods might even be small. And we've decided to take a ride around and see who is actually still living in some of these areas. Even though zoning has been changed, future land use, it doesn't mean that these homes or people living there or even apartments have moved away. In fact, some of the homes that are there predate and probably would be available for local historic register. So it's they kind of got caught in a time warp, and things didn't quite progress the way the city envisioned years ago. So in the meantime, you've got people that live in an area that's deemed M zoning, which is kind of an industrial for the city, and then a mixed-use zoning. And the section that has been suggested as far as putting this facility is actually one of the sections is a short road. There's not much access, and on the other side, there's a lot more homes, which are actually close to the police station. And you'd be surprised how many people are actually living in these areas, and including families. And they're not what you would expect. They don't look blighted. It doesn't look like I'm sure they have their issues, but it doesn't look like what you would expect. And we wanted to bring this to the council's attention because as the current ordinance stands, the protection as far as where the facility would go 500 feet from residential zoning, that it doesn't cover who's living there now. And I don't see any indication based on how long these properties have been used that anyone's moving away from these particular residences anytime soon. So our concern is, and it would to be addressed would be if you're going to allow a medical marijuana facility in this area, that you would afford them the same protection you're talking about as far as other residential zoning, and that is 500 feet. And there are pocket neighborhoods within this M zoning and mixed-use zoning. So that's our concern. And we wanted to show you a few.
Not yet.
Go ahead.
And one of the things, and in your ordinance, thank you very much, it talks about protecting the folks out there, general safety and welfare of the people. And I know all of you as council members want to protect all involved. And one of the things when you go and look at the minutes that I think you all approved, on page 8, it's talking about some of the things I talked about last night about the residents that were close to this one finger that I was concerned with. And Mr. McGarry, which is your P&Z director, explained that the residential dwellings are not allowed in the M zoning. Now, I had stated, and I didn't see it in the minutes, I didn't have time to go through the tape, but some of this zoning, not only this zoning, but other zoning throughout our city, the zonings were changed. You had people living there. They didn't move out, but the zoning around them and sometimes what I call underneath them, that changed, but they're still there. He said if these people are living in the M zoning, then they wouldn't be grandfathered in or are living there illegally. Now, when I drove around and looked around, some of these residents that you will see up here, apartment buildings and all, duplexes, do have people there. And if you look at the structures, they're fairly well maintained, but they have some age on there. You all know that I've been here for quite some time. These units have been there for a long time. And again, just bear in mind that a lot of zoning throughout the city, as I were, on the mainland happened in neighborhoods and forced a lot of people out. And what you've heard me talk about the POI zoning. POI zoning is actually a failed experiment in some areas. Anyway, if you would look at the slides, just see what you would think. And go ahead.
A point I wanted to make also is with the zoning map that the council was given is in black and white and gray, so it's hard to tell exactly unless you actually look. And I used 3 maps today to compare, zoning and how close things were to each other and the type of use. We live in an RM 1012, which was decided back, I believe, in the 60s. And a lot of the homes there that are in this section have not converted to apartments, which was the idea of the concept. They thought people were moving away from downtown, moving out to the suburbs, and those who stayed in the city, I guess they assumed would live in apartments. But a lot of us have bought older homes that we're fixing them up. They're not turning into apartments. So that's the part of our premise also. Just because the zoning had changed years ago doesn't mean that it's being used that way now. And so we're concerned about some of our smaller neighborhoods, some of our, and it's not so much low income, but it's not everyone can afford to live on the beach. Not everybody wants to. So these just happen to be other residences. And as the downtown has been flourishing and the art galleries, we're talking about the Culture Arts Village, people are coming back to downtown. So, and this is an area that's part of the downtown. And the interesting thing is, one of the pieces that is being considered for this ordinance is on 17th Place, and you'll notice the sign here where it says Downtown Vero Beach. This actually is part of the M zoning. But the philosophy when that sign was put in was that was considered downtown. So that was how people viewed the city, and they're still viewing that city. When you talk to businesses there, they consider themselves to be part of downtown. And again, also we've been talking about an arts district, which would be a separate component away from blending into at some points with the Cultural Arts Village concept. And a lot of folks have shown an interest in this area, and already we've got some artists that are starting to open businesses here, all types of, including sculpture. I forget the one there's a new marble sculpture place. This is the street that. The interesting thing too about this proposed ordinance is there's only one section, which is this section. On the west side of the tracks. The other side is all on the east side of the tracks as far as this proposed zoning. So we wanted to show you that people are living here where this proposed medical facility could go because it's next to a vacant lot. And these are some of the homes in this area. And that's an apartment complex there. That's a very old little home. But as you'll notice, that it's not as if they're falling apart or in decay. And then we started looking around as far as the general area because it's a compact area, and 500 feet isn't very far. So we started looking at the surrounding area. This is actually right next to the police station on 10th Avenue, and this is a vacant lot actually next to that house that is in the mixed-use zoning. We just wanted to make the council aware of what's out there. These are some residential apartments on 10th Avenue, which line the mixed use, and they're just north of the commercial area that has been proposed for the medical marijuana facility. And again, some more houses in the same area. And I just wanted to make the council aware also of the apartments. This is along Old Dixie. This one's on Main Street. This house is right next to the police station. That's the police station right there. These are 10th Court, which is just west of the police station. And this is all in the mixed use.
Did you do the apartment?
Which one?
Keep going.
Well, this is the same building,
okay.
Ferns Rooming House. And you can tell by the age, some of these buildings have been there for a long time.
Can you make a comment on this one?
Sure.
And this is not very far from where that, we'll just say the word finger of that little piece that jogs out on a dead-end street. This little apartment building, you can see, is fairly well kept. Now, when I was out doing the photos and I chose not to do the following, there's children in there, very, very young children. There was, I guess, people in their 20s. I saw some people in their 60s or better. So you have a mixed group of people in there. What caught my eye was the children. And bear in mind now where this little finger is a dead-end street. And it's very closed off. And I spoke to you all, and I won't go into that this evening. In the research that I've done, these facilities down the road, you could have a number of problems. And I had explained to you all, the chief spoke to the P&Z group, and he went over shared with us some of the things that he came across when he went out on one of his trips, concerning these type of institutions. And I had said before, as a city, I would like you to do everything you can to protect all involved. And that means the people in this M zoning area and the surrounding area, because they're people too. when the little dead-end road there that I showed you, that nice little building would be to the right of the road, there were folk there. Again, I chose not to do the photos. They heard about some of this, and they were a little bit worried as far as, this taking place right at the end of their road. And they were hoping that you could maybe give some special considerations to protect them also. I'll let her move on with the slide presentation. Thank you.
I think we're about.
Okay, we're almost done.
We're about done. This is another older home that, to my eye, and I'm on the Historic Preservation Commission, that might well qualify to come in and ask us about local designation. And that was some of my concern, too, as far as our housing stock and historic stock is not as high as most communities. And that's the same house, different view. And this is in the same area. And then we ended with this one, which reminds us of what the Cultural Arts Village concept is contemplating as far as the more creative look to the structures. Thank you, Tammy.
And I'll leave you with this, and fresh information, but a lot of the same stuff I heard over the years from the design workshop charrette last Saturday. A lot of people are looking to come back to the city, want to come back to the city, and reinvest in our downtown area, our surrounding neighborhoods. And so I would ask you as a council, please do everything you can to protect all involved. We've waited a long time to get the economic situation here going again. We don't need to do things that's actually going to put a hurting on us. Everything I've heard about these institutions, if they do come, we have to do everything we can to protect ourselves. And if we're not wise and prudent, you can put a hurting on your mainland neighborhoods. It's the island side is shielded from this, because when I looked at the zoning over that way, you have your residential zoning that your ordinance protects them. But over here on the mainland, you have a bunch of holes that later on down the road could put a hurting on us. So I'm, again, asking you, because we are working very hard to bring up a lot of our downtown, our neighborhoods, and you've all heard me speak before, and also to you all as individuals. You are aware of some of the deep-rooted problems that we're still facing in some of these neighborhoods. Now, I think on the positive side, I feel with the right things that we put in place, we can pick these neighborhoods up, like you heard we're talking about with the Arts Village concept, Edgewood. That needs help. This is a great way moving forward with the Arts Village concept. So we don't want to go backwards. So anything you can do to help us out tonight, I appreciate it. Thanks.
I'd like to point out also that, number one, we haven't said no to this. We're not telling you not to do it. We just think there might be a better place, a better solution, and we'd like to see more thought, perhaps, to in light of the fact that there are actually more people spread out throughout the city living in areas that perhaps others haven't thought about. And it's not necessarily low income or even substandard. So that's part of it. And a thought also is this isn't really a real accessible area. If you had it more along 17th Street or even US 1, if you actually want to be accessible to those who need this type of facility, if and when the state or the voter decides this is going to be done, then it seems to me you'd want it more in a more accessible spot. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Yeah, thanks
Any
for
questions
hearing
of
us.
the day?
Thank you.
All right, further public comment on this particular 4A ordinance? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment. Any comment from staff?
I just have a question from Tim, because I know he had explained conditional use on this property. This is, if something is going to happen in this neighborhood, is it my understanding that there is going to be a process that goes through before they?
Well, yeah. So we have a whole process, and I'm trying to point this out. These things, yes, there are residents nearby, but if you start counting every residence in these non-residential zoning districts, we wouldn't be able to have any location probably for these. Then we're in a problem that you're basically banning them, de facto banning them. Okay, so we came to that. So we tried to come up with this kind of solution to keep it out of harm's way, off the major travel roads and all that in this location. And it's not a zoning district. Remember, this is done by separation of uses and all that, but it has to be in the industrial zone. But it does require conditional use, and we have a lot of requirements in the conditional use. So if there's some obviously some impacts on adjacent residents or something, that would be considered during a public hearing. So, I mean, we did the best we can. And I can tell you, I just got back from a conference down in Florida. Our ordinance is well ahead of a lot of other in the state that hadn't even done this. And we've covered a lot of the issues that they're still grappling with. And if you look at a lot of the things that have come up the last year when we did the first ordinance, we have a lot of protection in there for everything from armed guards to how big the building. Those were all changed when we went through the process. So I hope that answers your question.
Ms. Stern, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we have been going through this process for, a year ago, I guess, when I requested that, hey, before the referendum, that we at least be prepared to have something on the books. We went through reviews at that process. It's been through countless P&Z meetings and through hearings here. I appreciate that. I move for approval of the ordinance.
Is there a second? Well, is there discussion then?
Well, I just, I want to make sure that if one of these houses or whatever that's going to sell medical marijuana, I mean, it's going to go through a process where everybody's going to get the heads up that it's coming in, and it's going to go through notice and hearing.
A conditional use requires notification to the public, both posting and anybody within property within 500 feet has to be notified of the hearing.
Is there a chance to this process that if there's an objection to it, that it's not going to happen? It can be denied?
Well, it has to go through a quasi-judicial process. So just because you don't want a medical marijuana dispensary is not just, you'd have to show competent, substantial evidence that it's causing harm, say, to the neighborhood or adjacent properties.
So if they were putting one of these dispensaries next to a children's daycare center.
Well, no, we have separation for that in the ordinance. Again, when that map that we showed in your document is basically just that I took a GIS out and looked at it. That is not necessarily the final say in where a property may be eligible for this kind of thing.
Well, let me restate. So what if it's an apartment complex that has kids in it?
Well, if it's in a non-residential zone, it would not preclude that dispensary, but obviously that would be something that would be looked at during the process for approval.
Okay. So, I have a motion. I don't hear a second.
No.
If the thing doesn't go through, does it open up the whole city for? Yeah.
Right now, the city would be open because we have medical services and clinics that would open us up. I mean, if you don't want to go forward tonight, the staff would like some direction from you all because we think it. And I'm looking at the attorney.
This confines that use ahead of any possible legalization. And remember, this is medical marijuana dispensaries where it would be also, I would imagine, it's going to be strictly regulated by the state. So as Mr. McGarry said, if you don't specify areas where it's a permitted use and it just becomes classified by the state as any other medical type facility, you're opened up to pretty much any place where you could have a doctor's office or a pharmacy. And remember, what we're hoping for at the very least is that if there's any preemption in the state legislation, if and when it's adopted, there would be some grandfathering to keep our regulations in place. To limit the locations.
We have time on this. I mean, I could make a motion to table it to the next meeting.
Sure.
But then the question becomes, what happens then? I mean, the legislature is not going to meet. I saw the date earlier in the day until the 12th of January or some such date. So we have plenty of time for due consideration. I don't know what other
The
considerations
question
there would
is,
be.
what change you would want to bring forward? Because, I mean, there's no point if you're bringing the same ordinance here unless you're giving them direction as to what you're going to accept.
I feel, being the new guy on the block, I'm not comfortable with the zoning issues yet. I don't feel comfortable with me leading the charge to second this yet. I feel more comfortable following you guys on this. This is a new territory for me, and so I'm tippy-toeing a little bit, and that's why I'm not jumping forward and seconding. This is to me tricky stuff, and I'm not there yet.
Well, to me, I think this is something we've got to do. The question is not if we do it. The question is geography.
Yeah.
Is there a location that doesn't involve residential homes that we could do this in?
What about over by off 16th by the railroad as an example? I don't know.
Well, that's pretty close to where it is, I think, over there by 16th off the railroad.
Oh, I guess over by the city-owned land over there.
Well, I mean, the only way to do it, we'd have to look at specifically, we would create an overlay or something, because it's different than the distance thing. We'd have to look at it more closely. I can't give you an answer to that. Some of it is city-owned property. The other thing is if you make it so that's so impossible to find a piece of property, meaning we own the property, and I don't think the city is about to sell it to somebody for a medical marijuana dispensary. Remember, until Congress allowed the banks to deal with these things, I don't think many landowners are going to sell their property to this, because the DEA could come in and close it down and take the property and a drug kind of thing. So, I mean, I'm willing to do whatever you want here. It's just that.
I'm a little uncomfortable with one council member missing too. I would make a motion to table this to the next meeting with the intent that you bring other potential solutions forward at that time.
I'll second.
Okay.
Do you object to that?
No. Hey, I don't object to anything you all tell me. I work for you. I'm not that stupid.
No, you don't.
We can read your body.
Hey, look dumb.
Mr. McGarry, you do not work for us. You work for the city manager.
Well, I work for the manager, but you're the policy board, so I will certainly take. But if I'll have to go back and give some thought of what kind of other alternatives that we could do that would be. Which I think would meet the due process and would meet all the requirements of the zoning regulations.
Just for clarification, now, would you expect this to come back at the next meeting?
Why don't we have plenty of time. Why don't we take the meeting after next? So I'll make a motion to
give it, Tim, just give it time.
That would be fine. That would give me a little more time.
The second meeting in October. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Call the question.
I'll call a question. This is actually a roll call.
Yes, sir. Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mrs. Turner?
No.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Winger?
Yes, it passes 3-1. You'll bring it back to us. All right. 5. These are resolutions. Public hearing not required. A resolution, this is 5A, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Vero Beach, Indian River County, Florida, expressing support for continuation of the Indian River County local government infrastructure 1-cent sales surtax, discretionary sales surtax authorized pursuant to sections 212.055 Florida statutes, providing for an effective date requested by Indian River County. Mr. Attorney. Our pleasure to have you here tonight.
For a point of clarification, Mayor, all these things require open up to the public anymore, so that's kind of a misnomer, not required public hearing.
It's just not
Thank you, sir.
advertised public hearing.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. Good evening, everybody, council members. My name is Dylan Reingold, County Attorney, Indian River County. Just here tonight requesting your approval of the resolution as presented, supporting the extension of the optional sales tax. The voters of Indian River County had initially approved the optional sales tax back in 1989. It was extended by the voters in 2002, and now comes up and expires on December 31st. 2019. The Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County had voted in July to support a resolution in extending the optional sales tax once again. And after that meeting, Sebastian, the City of Fellsmere, and the Town of Orchid have all filed suit in adopting resolutions in support. And thus, today I was looking forward to the support from the City Council as well. The Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County is looking to put this on the ballot in November of 2016. It's an opportunity, a presidential election, kind of a good opportunity to get as many of the voters as possible out to consider this type of item. Some of the keys of the optional sales tax is that it goes for our infrastructure. So what we've been able to utilize it for with the Indian River County is, for road improvements, emergency services district vehicles, and also lagoon projects. Some of the positives of this sales tax is that all the folks who buy things will be paying into it. So it offsets, both are paid by visitors and also by property owners. So one of the other benefits is it helps offset your ad valorem taxes. And then finally, one of the really good benefits is that it's shared by both the counties and the county and all the municipalities. I asked the budget director, not yours, but Jason Brown today, what the amount was for the city of Vero Beach last year of the optional sales tax, and he said it was roughly about $2 million that came into the city of Vero Beach. I know when I went to Fellsmere, Jason Nunemaker said it was such a critical component of their overall budget for getting things done. And so with that, I just come forward to you today and hope for your support of this resolution, and I'm here for any questions you may have, and thank you very much.
Are there any questions? No. From Council? No questions.
Okay,
thank you for your presentation. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Further public comment? Okay, I see no public comment. Is there
Motion to approve?
I'll second it. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. Mrs. Bach?
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
No.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Winger?
Yes, passes 3-1.
Thank you very much for your support. Have a wonderful evening.
Okay, resolution, this is 5B, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Vero Beach, Florida, amending Section 3.11, discrimination of the City of Vero Beach personnel rules, providing for conflict and severability, providing for effective date, requested by the Human Resource Director. Staff comment, please.
This is really just to bring our personnel policies into line with the changes in federal law as it refers to the discrimination, and so it's more of an administrative update of those personnel policies.
Are there questions of the City Manager before I call for public comment? Seeing none, public comment, please. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Anyone make a resolution?
Motion to approve?
Second. Go ahead. Second.
Mrs. Turner seconded first.
Yeah.
I'll call.
Wait a minute.
Move it forward. It's a gentleman. All right.
Ladies before gentlemen.
Good.
I'll call the question. Mrs. Bach, please.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mrs. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Winger?
Yes, passes 4-0. There being no public notices, City Clerk matters. Are there any?
No, sir.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I've got a couple of questions for the city clerk. Regarding our committees, I noticed that on the Finance Committee and Mr. Old, we still have a vacancy for an appointment there.
Yes.
And looking at reserve policy, other things that we have that
I am searching.
Okay, great.
I've got a feeler out for somebody right this second.
Wonderful. I did notice on the Utility Commission that we had a resignation from Bob Russell that
I'm searching too, and
is the mayor's representative.
yes, that's correct.
And that Indian River Shores did appoint an alternative for their representation, that Rick McDermott would be their alternate on the Indian River Shores. We posted those on the memberships? On
Yes,
all
sir.
these
It's on the website.
Great.
We actually have some other openings on some of our boards, which on our Code Enforcement Board, we have a full member position and 2 alternate positions open. On our Historic Preservation Commission, we have 2 alternate positions open. And on our
Planning also.
Planning has one alternate position open, and our economic development zone has 2 alternate positions open. So, yes, we are looking for some members to fill those positions.
And I guess vitally important as we're looking at reviewing, though, you see contract things going on with utilities that we don't have finance and utilities fully staffed. So, anyway, I just wanted to bring that up to the public. Thank you.
If you know of people for any of these, I'd love to know their names. Or I'm sure Mrs. Bach would too.
Could you get us a list of that? Just send that to us.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Put it in your box.
All right. That moves us to city managers meetings 8A. Mr. O'Connor.
We have received word that the Teamsters Union did pass the proposed contract, and Jason Odom is here to sort of go through the fine print of what that means. Jason, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mr. Good evening, Council. As Mr. O'Connor said last week, the Teamsters Union did have a ratification vote on both contracts, one for the blue-collar unit and one for the clerical and technical unit. So I'm here very happy to present both contracts to you and urge your approval of those. I want to just run through a few of the highlights of both agreements with you. And as you know from past meetings, these contracts are largely similar in nature in their terms. What I think probably is one of the most important parts of both deals is that it's a 3-year deal. As you know, we've been before council the past 2 years, both times, in impasse hearings over various issues. This is a 3-year deal which will give the city what I would call labor peace. And I think that's very important. That reduces legal costs, which is me. All the negotiations. Also, which I think sometimes is understated, is the staff time. And Gabrielle Manis is here, HR Director. I do want to thank her for all of her help and support in the process. Mr. O'Connor's time, Chief Curry, Rob Bolton, Ted Fletcher. These are all high-level staff people who spend a tremendous amount of time in these labor negotiations. And that also frees their time up and gives us what I think is well-earned stability in our labor contracts. A few other highlights. It does strengthen our management rights provision from the last impasse hearing. We improved our layoff and reduction of force provisions. We do not increase the city's percentage share in the cost for insurance premiums. We made our substance abuse policy in line with the existing city policy. We accomplished the 3% pay increase that council had given us direction on before. You may recall I did come to you for some flexibility in how we spent or allocated the net cost of that 3%, which we did accomplish that. And actually, in year one, there's actually about $25,000 actually less for this fiscal year because we don't make that effective until January 1 of 2016. So we were very happy about that. Overall, both agreements do maintain and preserve all of council's goals that you've given us from the last 3 years. You probably recall these: the holiday pay, vacation and sick leave, health insurance, and probably one of the biggest moves you've made in many years is the move from the retirement plan from a defined benefit to a defined contribution plan. So all those goals have been maintained and accomplished, and so I'm here tonight really to urge all of you to support ratification of both contracts. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions? Mr. O'Connor, I believe this we should view as something we should take a vote on, but that being so, I think we should have public comment.
Yes, sir. You should have public comment because it is an item that we would ask the council to vote on. I think, as Jason has pointed out, this is the first time since I've been here that we've had a multi-year contract, and it just seems like we continually negotiate, and that's something that cannot be overstated in the fact that it is an ongoing process. All the department directors are involved in that exercise. Cindy obviously is involved in the exercise. And Gabrielle sort of works as our liaison there. But the key is that I personally am very proud of the fact that Jason and the folks and the team that negotiated were able to pull together a 3-year contract that we got a unanimous vote from the Teamsters. And it does still limits our exposure as we go into the future. Again, what Jason said on the pension plan, going to the defined contribution, We've limited that exposure. We know what our time frame is to phase out of that. We've also put in the accumulation of vacation and sick time that obviously will eliminate exposure upon retirements of older employees. So that use it or lose it was something that we worked very hard and diligently to try to maintain in the contract.
All right. Public comment. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. How do we want to do this, a voice vote or a roll call?
Voice vote is fine.
Okay, all in favor of...
We need a motion.
Need a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'm sorry. I'll make a motion that the contract... what would be the proper wording? The contract
Be ratified by the city.
I make a motion that the contract be ratified.
Both contracts.
Both contracts.
Both contracts be ratified by the city. Thank you for the correction. Is there a second?
No second.
Discussion.
Discussion by all means.
I would say I would Administrative Gabrielle, City Manager, everyone involved with bringing us forward this 3-year agreement. We've come a long way in getting those. And say my objection to this contracts is still that when we changed to defined contribution plan, we went up to a 9% contribution. And I think that is too hefty a burden on our taxpayers, and therefore I will object to it.
All right, I have a motion and a second. This is a voice vote?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed.
It passes 3-1. All right, further matters for the city manager. I have one that's just a question of clarification. I may have more than one. But starting on October 1st, the county garbage system changes. What changes about the city system? In other words, do we still have twice a week pickup at the garage and all that sort of thing, or what do we have and haven't?
Nothing changes from our perspective except for the single recycling process. There will be a large bin that will be placed at each driveway of the residents of the city, and that'll be for the single stream recycling. But the garbage pickup will remain the same as it is that we have been providing to this point. The recycling is a county function. We have chosen to go that way. I highly recommend that we stay in that. I think the single stream over time is going to be something well accepted by the residents. There's no question the big container is going to be scary at first, but it'll still be picked up on the same day that it was picked up before, and we'll continue in that process.
Okay, but I think we need to make clear that on the county we're not mixing in garbage with the recyclables.
No, these are recyclables. You can put your newspaper, plastics, your metals into the same container together, but it has to be recyclables. This is not garbage. This is not Ryan peels and that kind of stuff.
Hopefully the press will pick that up. You know, there's a difference in what the
No, the county is not doing that either, Mr. Mayor.
No,
are they not?
They have a separate garbage.
It's clearly recyclable.
Right. If you're in the county, you're going to get two large containers, one for garbage, one for recyclables.
Okay.
In our case, we're only having the
Mr.
recyclables. Yes.
I'm glad we clarified that for you. All right. Further questions of the city manager?
Yes, I do have a couple questions for the city manager. Can you tell us the status of the stormwater utility?
Yes, we're putting the final touches on the contract that will be presented to the city council the first meeting in October. There were some details that we still had to work out, and I believe either yesterday or today or tomorrow, those will be final details, and it'll come to you. That'll be awarding of the contract and the pricing of the contract and the scope of the contract.
And I guess I find it interesting to receive this electric study optimization report. Apparently it was received by the city on September 2nd, and I guess not distributed until I made a public request for it. But, I guess we went into this optimization study expecting to see we were told we would see great savings. And about all it told us is that, hey, we're going to have a lot more investment to put into our electric utility to keep it operating. So, and you said there's another report coming?
There's actually two more sections of the report that will be coming. There's going to be 4 sections to the report. It'll be finished in December, and then they'll make their formal presentation to the City Council the 1st of January. is what the schedule is now. There should be a memo attached to that from the Power Services who are doing the workforce, sort of committing to the time frame.
That I didn't receive, so if I could get a copy of that, all I received is just a copy of the report itself. If you make that available to us, that'd be great. Thank you.
One other question, timing of is there going to be a joint Utilities and Finance Commission, and if so, do we have any knowledge of when that might be?
Pardon me, Mr. Mayor, I missed the first part. I was looking.
I said, do we have any knowledge of when there will be a meeting of the Joint Finance and Utilities Commission, and when that would likely be?
Yes, if we get the contract on the OUC, the joint meeting hopefully would be called on October the 5th, the Monday before the council meeting on the Tuesday. We are still waiting for that final contract to come. The contracts that have been floating around, unfortunately, are still drafts, and so the details are still being worked out to make sure the financials meet what our expectations are. As of today, I have not seen that final report, so I do know that there has been some communication between OUC and Chef Wright.
All right, I have no further questions.
But before it comes to council, we will have either the joint meeting or individual meetings of the Finance and Utilities Commission.
And on the stormwater utility, we wouldn't have that go before the Utility Commission before it comes to council?
Yes, ma'am, we can do that. Now, that would be the stormwater study, or do you want the contract to go to them as well?
Well, the scope of work, I think, for sure.
Okay, we can do that. We can put that on the schedule.
Yeah, it certainly should go there. There's not a question in the world.
We can do that.
What else?
That's all I have unless there's any other questions.
All right, we have an added...
I did think of one other thing. We do have that special meeting coming up on the appeals, and what is that, the 29th?
Yeah, that's September 29th at 9:30.
At 9:30, and that's the appeals on the vacation rentals, just to make it there. And I earlier mentioned that Marty Sickert had asked us to help on the Gifford Park with the veterans and families. What we're going to do is furnish a stage there. It's going to be one of our smaller stages, but they were sort of hurting and trying to put everything together. And Rob Slezak has been working with them to make that happen.
All right, City Attorney Managers, I know you've added an item.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. What you have in front of you, I apologize for not having a memo. This came in this afternoon, quite honestly. The police department, basically we call them the SWAT team, police critical response team, wants to use the Scripps building over on US 1, 1801 US 1 for training next Tuesday. And Scripps did request that the city provide proof of insurance and provide indemnification for damages or injuries or what have you. And we took their form and we did modify it somewhat, and they found it acceptable. And we're here to ask you to approve that so that they can have their training next week.
Is there a general consensus that that's okay?
You need a motion? Or
Yeah, we would need a motion and also any public comment on the subject.
Okay, public comment? All right, seeing none, I'll close public comment. Mr.
Motion
Kramer?
to approve.
Mr. Old, seconded. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? It passes 4-0. Anything else for the city attorney, please?
Yes, the city attorney. I guess I noticed that Indian River Shores had a first reading of an ordinance providing for the regulation of electric utilities serving within the town. Have you seen this ordinance?
I'm actually looking over it right now.
For the public, this ordinance is stating that in the town of Indian River Shores will be able to fix the rate of their electric utility services. They could require regular financial reports from their electric provider. Vero Beach Electric would have to apply for rate approval. They would charge a 1% regulatory fee, and for their delinquent But I guess in reading this over, I thought Vero Beach as electric utility, as a utility, we can't charge different rates to our customers. I thought we went through this kind of rendition with
Yes.
the water, didn't we, Mr. O'Connor?
Yes, ma'am, but in my discussions with Mr. Wright, you're able to pass on the cost allocation of any type of rate control or rate structures like this to the affected parties. So if Indian River Shores cost us 1.5%, we can pass that cost on to them. If it cost us to go through a full-blown rate case, as Florida Power and Light, for example, at the Public Service Commission, they can embed those costs into their rates for the affected parties. And so if Indian River Shores becomes the Public Service Commission for their rate class, legally speaking, based on what Chef has said, we can build our cost into that rate structure.
Sorry, I'm still lost with all this one.
Well,
but I think
it's
going to find out. They have another vote on it. I guess September the 25th. I guess it comes for their second hearing on it. But I think we need to be reviewing it, and I would ask the city attorney to please review this and see what the impact will be to us.
I just got it actually just for this meeting. I hadn't seen it, and I'm telling you, I'm 2/3 of the way through it, and it's. There's lots of issues in it. It's I don't want to knock their drafting, but it's got a lot of inconsistencies.
I would appreciate the next meeting and come back with
Also remember, legally speaking, you can charge a 10% surcharge outside our city for electric utility in the state of Florida right now. So there is cost recovery that can be applied if in fact there is a cost for the exposure that we would have.
I guess I'm still more concerned with this ordinance saying their ability to set their electric rate.
And again, it has to be justified, so that would be where you would have rate hearings. But the rate hearings, they have to have competent people listening to competent people on the rate hearings. Can't be subjective.
And I guess I'm still a bit in shock at this. Well, what was $66 million and is now $64.5 million number that we threw out at FPL is what Chef Wright and I guess Bill Harrington came up with as to what the impact would be if we sold in our Indian River Shores interest.
64.5 is what was in the memo. Yes.
Where did they come up with the 30-year period? Why did they determine that for present value on?
30 years is a given in the utility industry as an amortization period. 30 years is sort of a standard. I mean, it's a going concern, and so that's how I came up with it.
Any idea what the present value discount rate is used?
I can't remember,
That's okay.
but it was.
But
now Chef Wright will be here at the next meeting, because assuming that we get the OUC contract, or if you all want him to come anyway, we will have him here at the next meeting and can go over that detail.
I think a question I'll ask of you, Jim, is there's two numbers, one that came from Indian River Shores and one that came from the city via Chef Wright and Bill Harrington, and there's a very different. One is apples and one's oranges. Could you explain that?
Yes, the way it was explained to me, and I think this was in part of our conversation with Florida Power and Light. It's different if you're just going to go out and purchase 3,400 meters that are being serviced versus 3,400 meters that are encumbered in some respect. All of these meters are encumbered in our respect to our FMPA as well as our OUC contract. So we have power supply contracts that add cost to that transfer of those meters. And that's where the issue really comes in as to how to transfer. And so I think that's where Bill and Chef were going as to what those encumbrances were for the sale of the meters themselves. The Florida Power and Light's $13 million, and then they had a $12 million cost that they used in order to get their facilities to connect, which put the number at $25 million. Well, obviously the city was not benefiting from $12 million of that, but the way they described it to us, that was about as far as they could go with the Public Service Commission in trying to get a number through. I firmly believe $13 million was a low number, and I realized that in the newspaper I read today that somebody said that we could live on that for 70 years or something. I don't know where that comes from, but $13 million, in my opinion, was really low. And so when we asked Bill and Chef to put the numbers to it, then this is the results.
And yet, even with that number, they didn't include anything for the power plant remediation or the liabilities of St. Lucie, Stanton 1 and 2 that we have with FMPA. They didn't make. Why didn't they make any estimate there? Because that should, if those are in fact liabilities, we should have some estimate of those numbers.
You're talking about Chef and Bill?
She's asking about the contingent liabilities, which are definitely there.
Yeah, I think they did. They did put that in. As a matter of fact, we had a very long.
It says not quantified on this list.
It does.
Well, what we had in our conversation with FP&L, it was very difficult to quantify. For example, our future exposure, using St. Lucie as an example, if you take Crystal River as an example of a nuclear plant in Florida, it's going to be another 50 years. They're going to be paying for that as well as getting no power from it. If something similar should happen at Crystal River, then we, as a part owner, have that exposure. Excuse me, St. Lucie. St. Lucie.
And the same thing is true of San Leandro and outside San Luis Obispo, California. The numbers are huge, and our exposure is 1.4% of
whatever that is.
Whatever that is. It's billions of dollars.
But the same could be said about the Stanton plants. I mean, if they had an environmental issue there, you got to remember that Stanton facility is quite a energy center, and it could affect both gas that's the Southern Company as well as theirs if there was some.
You pointed out also accurately, Mrs. Turner, what happens as far as the plant, and we do know that Fort Pierce had $11 million so far in running of remediation for that plant, and those things were not covered. I mean, they're not in the number.
Yeah, and I guess that's what's kind of concerning is if you look at supposedly 8.6. What's the shore is part of our whole business, and we're saying here that we can quantify 65 million. Yet we still have all these other contingent liabilities hanging out there. If that's 10% of our system, what in the world is a liability at our total system? And I mean that's.
I think we all realize that we have a pretty heavy exposures.
Yeah.
But I think the important thing is, Jim, for you to say again that we were dealing with apple. Florida Power and Light is dealing with apples. We're dealing with oranges. Say it one more time.
It really is the value of the meters and the customers attached to those meters. If you take free and clear, the simple, the 13 million is a very reasonable number. If you take 3,400 meters that have encumbrances, which ours do, then it's a different picture.
And what happens with the encumbrance is that then it exposes the remaining 92% to that problem.
And what the encumbrance is our FMPA contracts and our failed OUC one that we signed in 2008, which has higher prices. And that's what our encumbrances are.
That's true. And that is an effect. If you take Indian River Shores out, it exposes us to the more higher priced FMPA power. So that's a pass-through cost that would have to be exposed to the other customers.
Actually, I believe he's got 4 other categories, like things like the debt and so on in there. But your point is valid. The major 2 are the 2 you said. There's several others, but anyway. Further questions of the city manager? Are you satisfied with or unsatisfied with that answer? Probably unsatisfied. I mean, from the point of view, it's scary.
There's still some other information, but I guess I'll need to dig through that one with Mr. Wright. Finally got a spreadsheet that I could read since, what was, thank you, Ms. Mock, for emailing me that because, the other copy was totally illegible in this thing.
Granted it was.
Just to talk a little bit, I guess, about all aboard. Florida, I guess. We still have not received any 90% plans.
No, we have not. And the excuse right now is that there's a new engineer on our area, and so it's being delayed, and it'll be a couple more months.
We are still discussing it with the county, Dylan Reingold's office, and Monty Falls. We're exchanging information as it goes through. They haven't received their 90% plans either. There are some concerns on their part about will they have to relocate some of the utilities, or will they not have to relocate those? We don't think that that's a major exposure because we're paying for those crossings. We do have two concerns about crossings, though, two that they keep saying in their environmental impact statement that they're going to close. And the way we read and understand the contracts, they can't close the crossings until we request them. And so one of them is 21st Street and the other is the flyover area onto 14th. And we have made it very clear that the City Council has not requested and has not even looked into requesting the closing of those two crossings.
At the MPO meeting, they stated that the EIS, that the final EIS, that there's still comments available to be made until September the 23rd on that final EIS. I mean, for what it's worth, but I just want to thank the county and tell the public, despite the newspaper saying, press to roll over and, just accept this. I think every day that we delay this project, we put another obstacle. We're costing them money. We're changing the economics of this project. And I think still that we can continue to press forward on it. And
Okay, Mr. Sykes, would you like to comment on this? It's certainly appropriate.
Yes, I just wanted to know if there's an opportunity to make a brief comment on.
Of course, sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I know you guys are staying here late this evening, so thank you for hearing me.
This isn't late for us. No. We've been here at 11:30.
Absolutely. Lang Sykes, 836 Riamar Drive, Vero Beach. Just a comment that was made earlier, rewinding the clocks back to 2008 when we hastily signed the contract with OUC, I haven't heard one person say that we really made a good choice signing that contract. And, I haven't read a news story that has proved that as well. And I think it's been highly contentious, obviously. So Chef Wright, the FMPA, and the OUC are really employing one of the oldest tricks in the sales book. And, this is a great deal, and you're very lucky to be in this position. I think, unfortunately, they're saying we can only offer it to you today. And I think the most prudent move would be for the city of Vero Beach to really analyze this in great detail. And, I would ask and recommend to the council that we wait, 3 months at least before we sign this deal. And we need a commitment to be very practical here and not political. So thank you. I just want to make that position known. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, as always.
I can say OUC would thank you very much. They'll make more money off of us, and they'd be happy to do so. So I can tell you about the OUC contract. I did watch the meeting. Tammy gave it to me. There's a video of the meeting in 2008. Keep in mind, when we signed the OUC contract, it was being compared to the FMPA's all-requirement project. So the idea that we signed a bad agreement was not really true. We were coming from FMPA to OUC. And when we signed the OUC agreement, they said that your bills would drop by 20 to 30%. The December before that contract started, we were at 158, and it did drop to about 119, 113. What they said about the OUC contract was true. The problem is that fracking came along, the natural gas the price is just completely reversed. You were up $18, $20 per MMBTU, and now it dropped to $3. It really crashed. And then at the same time, you got that war on coal. So, we really hit the perfect storm as far as the OUC contract. So at that time, at that perspective, it was much better than the FMPA All Requirements project, and it was a good choice at that time.
And the economy tanked afterwards also.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, a lot of people at that time thought that was a home run that they had hit, and in this business, it seems like you don't make long-term commitments, and that was the issue. Not so much that the contract at the price they signed it was bad at the time, but it's the fact that it was long was a problem.
Yeah, I don't think anybody here would like us to be in this contract. But the only thing I want to say is I want to give you real numbers. Before the contract went into effect, the rate was $158.82 for what it's worth, a very, very high number. And after January 1st, 2010, it became $125.95, still a high number. But at least
but we were still at that point paying for FMPA's hedging fiascos, and that's why our rates were 158.
There's two factors in it, but the day it went into effect, the rates did go down. No one's supporting the contract here. I don't think any one of the four of us.
Well, keep in mind also our hands are tied. I mean, we are still in an agreement with FP&L, so we can't go out there and just sign a new contract. And right now, we're just amending the OUC contract, which, unless we want to do nothing until December 31st, 2016, this is probably about the only thing we can do, just because we are in a contract with FP&L.
Absolutely. And I appreciate your comments. I'm, again, just urging the council to really take an opportunity to look through everything and make sure that this is the deal that you all would approve. So
well, in government, you don't always get the best choices. I'll just give you that.
Yes, sir.
You don't.
You may have an ample opportunity to go to the place where that's particularly true, because it seems like Tallahassee, it's harder than here by a manifold of, cubed.
Well, God willing, I'll have the opportunity to represent all you fine people.
Good luck to you.
So, thank you.
You got to count to 60, not 3.
Anything further for the city manager? All right, I guess that brings us to council comment. The only thing I would like to say is, and somebody, one of you will have to help me in the timing, but the wrap up of the Art Village charrette is
Friday from 3 to 5 is the
It's a
final
VIP tour. It's 6 o'clock for the public, I think.
Yeah, which is difficult because it's the same time as the MIA, but it is, both are very important. You should certainly go to one. That's about all I can say. Mr. Kramer?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've just, the Shred was quite an amazing an event. I was really proud to see a lot of our people out there. I just want to make one comment. We did have an MPO meeting, and it was, quite a unanimous concern that the 1 cent sales tax should go into effect. Without it, a lot of our road projects don't get done, and a lot of the burden for these road taxes shifts to the actual homeowners, the taxpayers, the owners of the property. And what happens is that a lot of the tourists and the people that are coming in and visiting escape the responsibility for paying for those roads. So we'd like to have everybody that use the roads preferably pay for the roads. So we certainly urge people to consider the 1 cent sales tax.
All right, Mr.
At the MPO meeting, they also talked about our Go Line service within the county, and we approved the 2015 plan. And for the past 4 years, our Go Line has had over 1 million riders a year. I think it was really impressive. They expanded their hours this last year to 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. They expanded services within Vero Lakes, Oslo, and of course here in Vero Beach, our for Ocean Drive service. Was glad to hear the bus hub construction that we've been trying to get. That's been so volatile. We were told it would be off 17th Street. It would begin construction in January with a September 2016 completion. They're expanding bus shelters, about 10 of those a year, and we are lucky enough to have one coming to the Vero Marina, which I know for our visitors will be a great addition. And remind everybody that there will be a public hearing. This is on the priority of cost feasible long-term planning for roads. It will be held at various locations on October the 1st, and I think For Vero Beach, that county would be the county administration 3:30 to 5. Wanted to commend our director of finance for her achievement of excellence in financial reporting. I think that was a great honor. We're very proud of that.
That was for this last year?
Yes.
I didn't hear that. That's great. Very good.
Certainly, I think, it's very
wonderful.
impressive,
Yeah.
and we want to
Wonderful.
make sure we commend her. And talked about POW, the United Way Day of Caring on Saturday. I know we have a nice group here from the city, and to see many other people volunteer to help on the project, and let everybody know about Lagoon Days at the Environmental Learning Center on Saturday, September the 26th, from 8:30 to 1. If you haven't been, it's a great family time outing. There are all kinds of educational things, as well as canoe rides and learning about the lagoon and wildlife and plants. It's a good outing.
Mr. Old. I'm going to bring to the next meeting the idea of reviewing our city manager and clerk and lawyer. I think that we should do an annual review, and I think it's important to get it started.
Yeah, normally we do those during budget reviews,
Yep.
but at the last,
But we should still do it.
It has not been done, so.
Tammy gave me a bunch of forms that other cities use, and let me just see if I can figure out which ones would be a good idea.
That's great.
All right, would you like to make a motion to adjourn?
Sure. Make a motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned.